Hey guys, Tower Climber here, and I'm bringing you another Tower God ranking video. And in this video, we will be ranking and explaining the power of every single Princess of Jahad we have seen or heard about in the proper Tower God story. One thing I want to say before I start talking about the proper powers of the princesses will be kind of the rules I have for this list. First, I will not be including any feat list blog post princess that we have learned through supplementary material like as I use blog posts. And I will also not be counting any princess candidates in the story like Lopo Elaine, Pobedao Tiara, and Ha Xianhe. As while they are a powerful individual with feats in the story, and they were considered for the title of princesses, they did not become an official princess of Jahad for one reason or another. Now that we have all that out of the way, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Before we begin, let's go over the natural traits you would find in a Jahad princess of the tower. We know that only the most outstanding and talented children from either a Tengrid family or a special family in the tower are then granted Jahad's powers through a special method, definitely involving his blood in some way, shape, or form, further enhancing their combat abilities and other skills like their Shinsu manipulation. And through this method, the princesses of Jahad are physically stronger than even most members of the Tengrid families, like how Endorsi is stronger than even a talented member of a great family like Kun Ran. Also, princesses chosen among the Tengrid families have physical capabilities that can even exceed rankers who aren't using or using a limited amount of Shinsu while still being regulars. Furthermore, regular princesses are seen as more durable or at least have more stamina than an average ranker, with Bomb in the name hunt station noting that it was hard for him to keep pace with Endorsi without using Shinsu to boost his abilities. Now getting into the list proper, I want to start with something I normally don't do in these videos, and that's actually having an honorable mention, and that being Jaina Repelista Jahad, who is a Jahad princess from the Jaina family. She seems to be addicted to sitting in her darkened room in front of her lighthouses, watching what's happening within the tower, and this makes her one of the tower's best informed residents, as she was tasked by Yuri to find Bomb, a task which seemed impossible but she was able to complete successfully. However, she's also so aware and in the know that apparently she is looking forward to the return of the Prince of Jahad, and may even be executing some type of plan, or otherwise might be expecting something interesting to be happening in close future. Since she said that she was pretty confident after having made Yuri quote-unquote participate in her plan. She generally calls her observation of the entire tower a quote-unquote game, and if this is true, it could mean she could potentially become one of the most skilled light bearers in the entire tower. However, Repelista has never been interested in climbing it and has not done so far. But without actually climbing the tower, she received an opera lighthouse from the first and highest ranked light bearer in the tower, Tupuri. So having the best lighthouse in the tower is definitely a boost that will put her above almost everyone on this list. But being realistic, she most likely won't be able to bring the opera with her if she ever chose to climb the tower, and we can't truly gauge what's her own level of skill and what's the opera's OP nature, as the opera is an item that lets you have basically a nearless infinite level of Shinsu control and range. Now getting into the list properly, let's start with the regular tier. The first one coming in on this list at number 14 is going to be the, so far to me at least, unnamed princess of the Yuri Mascheny short story. She is here because she has to be, logically, because she is just starting to climb the tower, at least at the point we saw her, of course, in the Yuri Mascheny spin-off. So it doesn't really matter what her actual abilities or any of her feats may be later on in the story, because if the story stays consistent, and I think it pretty much will, then she can be above any of the other princesses on this list due to her being an F rank regular who just started climbing the tower in the second floor. But of course, saying that she's obviously very skilled, she's a princess of Jahad for a reason, and we still don't know if she's actually part of a Tengrid family yet. But even without that not being the case, she's definitely seen as, except for Yurik of course, the strongest of the second floor when Yurik was there, being stronger than other Tengrid family members on that floor like Lopobia Evelyn. She also seems to have good Shinsu control, as she's able to throw her needle and ricochet it all over the battlefield to take out multiple opponents at once. And she has a very mysterious power of apparently being able to be possessed, which we don't really know the specifics of yet in the story, but again, like I said before, none of this really matters, as she just has to be at the bottom of this list because in the point of the Yuri Mascheny spin-off, she just started climbing the tower and is the lowest rank regular you could be. Coming in at number 13 on this list is here due to many factors, as Anak has been a fan favorite character that I'm sure we all wish had more to do in the current story, but her moments in the early portions of the story have always been some of my personal favorites. But in terms of this list, she definitely falls a bit short, as she is only half a princess of Jahad, with only half of Jahad's blood in her, due to having an actual mother princess and a regular father. She is of course amazingly skilled and powerful, being on par with Iran with a lightning pill even after being speared near the heart, and is currently in the story a C rank regular, but all her showings against a proper princess like Endorsi or Maria show the difference in their levels. But to talk a little bit more about her skill, Anak is a fisherman who is great at using hooks in combat and used the Green April for a time in season 1 to great effect. She's also a pretty good spear bearer, but an aspect of her abilities I think is generally downplayed in the fandom is her great control over Shinsu, as she has been shown to be able to use 4 bangs as an E rank regular, which is definitely a crazy feat Novik and Rand questioned was even possible when they saw Bomb do something similar with 5 bongs during their fight. And Anak is also able to do something known as real control, which requires amazing control over Shinsu to manipulate the real of your inventory. Plus, she has even shown the ability to heal herself with Shinsu, albeit she most likely can't do this in the middle of battle. Overall, Anak is definitely an impressive regular in the tower, but she can go higher than this due to not being a full Princess of Jahad. Coming in at number 12, I won't be going too deep into this particular set of princesses as we don't have much to go off from their regular days, but this is where I think D rank Yuri and D rank Mascheny go, at least taking into consideration that this is base Mascheny we are talking about, as we will mention her amped state later on during this list. Again, we don't have that much to go off. However, SAU did note that if Yuri was in the same situation as Endorsi, she would have been able to actually beat Quant in the second floor, and when she was a D rank regular, she had an A rank sparring partner in Ha Xianhe, and Mascheny stood tall against Data Jahad, who was definitely ranker level in his suppressed state at that point. The problem with all this in the end of the day is that Yuri herself said that she doesn't think she would have won against Xianhe, even if she did go all out in their sparring sessions, and base Mascheny was not doing really anything to Data Jahad at all. So all I can really say about them is that they are both amazingly strong D rank regulars who are maybe actually around B rank level of strength. My reasoning for this is that a top tier D rank like Sachi and Boros saw Data Marco Asensio as somebody who they didn't even consider to be in the same rank as them, and even base Mascheny is clearly way above Marco, as we have seen in the story of the Hidden Floor. So again, that's how strong I think they generally are, but aside from these little trinkets, we don't have that much information to really go off on. For the next ones in number 11, I will have even less to say, but they are Hendelok Mascheny Jahad and Arya Rose Jahad, who are 2 regular princesses that are considered rivals who have their own factions in the tower that go up against each other. We don't have any other feats from them, as we still haven't officially seen them in the Tower God story, although I want to believe in the theory that Arya Rose Jahad is Arkraptor's daughter and we saw her in the Cage arc. But besides that theory, all we know is what families they are from, and so can assume that Mascheny Jahad has amazing defensive capabilities due to being from the Hendelok family, and Rose Jahad knows Arya swordsmanship since she's from the Arya family. We can also assume that at this point they are at least C rank regulars, so I'll put them here on this list just to be conservative. Next, cracking in the number 10 is another tie with Lilial Jahad and Shilial Jahad. They are both C rank princesses from the Lopobia family, so they have the ability to control divine sea fish like Lilial's lioness and Shilial's cool looking eel. They were also considered the top D rank regulars, even above somebody like Elaine, who is somebody who I scale to have B rank levels of strength. And I'm also putting them together in this list due to the fact that they have always been seen as a pair in the story and have never had any indications or statements of one being outright stronger than the other. I personally would put Shilial above her twin sister due to her more level-headed mindset, but in terms of on-screen actual feats, Lilial definitely takes it, as we have just seen her fight more than her sister. Shilial seems to be a more precise fighter like how we saw in her battle against Hot, and Lilial seems to focus more on raw power as we saw with her large-scale Shinsu blast she was throwing around all over the place. Coming up next on this list at number 9, but not by too much, is Endorsi Jahad, and this is due to her enhanced versatility with her main item of the Bong Bong, which SAU himself stated that the item combined with Endorsi's might is an OP combination in the tower, and it's not hard to see why. The Bong Bong allows the teleportation of its users and those around it to another place. Its teleportation is only limited by distance and weight, and is quite a freeing ability overall, but it does consume the user's stamina the more you use it, and depending on the enemy light bearer or wave controller's capabilities, the teleportation ability can be predicted or sealed off, like how we saw when Gusting and Traumite managed to shut off the Bong Bong during the Sprout arc. In addition, on higher floors, the Bong Bong's teleportation range is actually reduced accordingly entirely by the Shinsu pressure. Endorsi has been able to use the bonbon in many other ways, like allowing her to fly and boost her abilities by speeding her up, but I do also want to talk about her great level of skill and talent beyond the bonbon as well, as she is also clearly amazing at using Shinsu. Like a Noct, she can use real control, fire huge Shinsu blasts like the Chiffon sword, and be an amazing fisherman who can use small needles and use the compression weapon in the form of her label pins on the second floor before they got destroyed. And finally, she was able to learn and master her Shinsu quality in less than 2 days, which was even actually faster than what Bomb was able to do. Her Shinsu quality takes the form of heart-shaped needles, which even Joaquin said could move around in different ways than any other type of Shinsu he had ever seen before, which was definitely a high amount of praise from the incomplete Slayer. Next on this list at number 8 is Kun Maria Jahad. I will say this is definitely more of a speculation placement, as we haven't seen almost anything from Maria other than being able to beat a Noct and the rest of Team Shibisu without people like Endorsi, Hot, or Shibisu being there, with seemingly no issue. She was seen wielding a giant and long spear during this conflict. I put her this high on this list because she is actually on a team with Lilio and Shilio, and I'm assuming due to her being a princess from a stronger family that she has the potential to be stronger than the other two princesses and therefore also be stronger than Endorsi, although I will say that I do not believe it will be by that much. We also don't currently know if she has the standard Shinsu quality of the Kun family in electricity, and if she does, then I believe even more than she should be in this placement, as she may be able to use something like the lightning pill to amplify herself, although I will say a part of me does want to see her using the ability of ice like Kun Aguero due to their many ties in the story together, and is definitely a part of season 4 I am looking forward to the most of seeing when we ever get to it. Coming in next at number 7, and the pinnacle of this regular tier, is gonna be Data Kun Mascheny with the lightning pill. I was originally not going to separate Data's Mascheny's base form and her lightning pill state. As spoilers, I won't be doing that later on during the list with high ranker Mascheny, but the thing is that unlike her later counterpart, the lightning pill greatly affects where she actually lands on this list. What I mean by this is that Data Mascheny with the lightning pill just has the clearly best feats of any regular princesses we have seen, with her being able to get past Data Jahad's Shinsu to burn off his mask using a transcendental skill, which is also a very interesting point we have to talk about, as the only regulars we have seen using a transcendental skill in the story are Bomb and Mascheny, but this doesn't actually mean that they are the strongest, at least in Mascheny's case, as transcendental skill just translates to beyond the boundary technique in Korean, so this could just be a case of Mascheny going over her limits in the fight like we clearly see in the story. We have also seen her survive attacks from Data Jahad, like the Lacalicus attack or some bangs that he threw out at her, by pure willpower, as Jahad himself stated before she collapsed. Now moving on to ranker tier, with number 6 on this list being the original Anak Jahad, and I want to use this placement to clear up some confusion about this character in particular, as I have heard that some people have said that she is actually really weak because they think she actually lost a 1 versus 1 to Ren in the story, but this is actually not true. Anak Jahad was hunted down by a whole squad of the Royal Enforcement Division, which included Ren and potentially even some other princesses of Jahad, as Anak Jr. said that her mother was quote-unquote betrayed by her sisters, that being Anak's whole plotline in season 1, as why she wants to get revenge not only on Jahad but the princesses as well. The original Anak Jahad was also strong enough to get a 13-month weapon to begin with, and had to fight that squad I mentioned before without the Green April, as she gave it to Anak Jr. as she escaped. So where I would personally place her is probably at advanced ranker level, just because I don't think we have enough information about her to say clearly that she was a high ranker. She definitely seemed to have the talent to do it, as she was given a 13-month weapon, but she ran away from her life as a princess. But even if she is a high ranker or not, I do believe that she is at the bottom of this ranker tier. Coming in next, we are cracking into the top 5, which the first one being Yuri Jahad, a prodigy princess from the Ha family, who is super young by the tower standards, as she is only 500 years old and is already on the level where she can fight and beat division commanders of Jahad's army, a young slayer in Karaka, and battle pretty well against a head librarian of the Pobedao family in Tiara, until she brought out her pen, which is just a really broken item in the story of Tower God. While being from the Ha family and a princess gives Yuri a super high defense and Shinsu resistance, I see for some reason that people think that Yuri was one of the Ha members that Jinsung was talking about when he said to Colavan that young Ha's only use their bodies as sandbags with no real skill attached. And I have no idea why people actually say this, as Yuri is immensely skilled. She is a master fisherman who can use her physical strength alone to create explosions in the air. She also claimed to be able to destroy the entire submerged fish testing arena in season 1 with her strength. She, like Anak and Endorsi, has amazing Shinsu control, being able to also use real control, flower Shinsu, and Shinsu bubbles that can melt, block attacks, or teleport a large number of people. She can also very well control the size of her attacks without affecting the power too much, just like how we saw with her rose shower attack being condensed versus Tiara. The aspect of Yuri's fighting style I like the most personally is her use of weapons, like the Green April, the replica of the Black March, which was stated in the story to have just as much power as the original Black March, and of course one of, if not her strongest weapons in Kranos, which is an ultimate ignition weapon so powerful that it has a rule in the tower that it can only be used once per day. Coming in next at number 4 on this list, I will have a lot less to say, as it is Yuri Jahad, a really talented princess of Jahad who was strong enough to receive the Blue August in the first place, and was able to kill her younger sister Garam, who had ignited 2 13-month weapons, and then take her Indigo July. Garam outside of this doesn't have too many feats in the story, but she should generally be above Yuri, as she is able to fight a Yuri in the Floor of Death who had ignited 2 13-month weapons and was possessed by the ghost of the 13 months without actually using her own 13-month weapons in that same battle. Her Shinsu pressure alone was strong enough to completely knock back Evan, and she was even confident she could battle Helljo by herself long enough for Bomb to escape and then flee on her own. But like I already said, because of her lack of feats that we have seen in the story, she can go higher than 4th place on this list. Coming in next on this list is high ranker Kun Mascheny Jahad, a current top 100 high ranker to be in fact. She is also the owner of the Yellow May and was one of the rankers who assisted in capturing Urasia and Jahad, although we don't know the specifics of this event or how much Mascheny herself really contributed to her capture. In the present day story, she was shown to be able to clash with Jin Sung Ha, a fellow top 100 high ranker, while being acknowledged by him to be holding back, as she didn't really want to fight him but just wanted to relay some information about the Hell Train. Mascheny, needless to say, is a master spear bearer and a very old princess with thousands of years of experience. Combined with her birth family blood, puts Mascheny way on the top of list of powerhouse characters in pure physical strength, which is then just bolstered by the fact that she can amplify her strength greatly by using the lightning pill. But she is also generally a master of her Shinsu quality, that being lightning. The power of her electricity Shinsu is extremely destructive and can cover a very vast and wide area. Mascheny can easily destroy mountains and canyons with a swing of her spear, and can even create massive barriers of electricity to block from other high rankers' attacks. Talking more about spears, Mascheny was actually the one who invented the Mascheny style lightning spear technique, described in the tower as quote-unquote the ultimate spear technique. It allows the user to take on a spear bearer position without being armed with physical spears by creating them from your own electricity Shinsu. I have gotten asked in the past what makes this different from Kun Edwan's lightning spears that clearly came before Mascheny, and I would say it's different because a lightning spear is actually Edwan's Shinsu shape, so therefore there is no drawbacks to him using a lightning spear, while it seems Mascheny and Rand spend a considerable amount of power every time they have to use the technique. Coming in next at number 2 and number 1, I really have no way of winning here. If I say one of these princesses is stronger than the other, I have complete knowledge that somebody in the comments is going to say, actually this princess is stronger. But to be completely honest, at this point, we just don't know who's stronger between these two. So I'm just going to give you guys my opinion and give you guys the reasoning as to why I think they are ordered this way. And so coming in at number 2 is going to be Adori Jahad, who is currently the strongest active princess in the tower. She is the commander-in-chief of all of Jahad's army, as well as the captain of Jahad's royal guards. She wields the only S-ranked weapon of the 13 months, the Golden November. Even before she became a ranker, she quite easily defeated a ranker in combat, making her the only confirmed non-irregular / non-ancient to perform this feat. SAU has also said that the records show that before the Jahad incident, Garam and Adori actually fought once. It had a hadn't been only 100 years since Adori had become a ranker at that point, yet she was still able to overwhelm Garam in a battle. Since then, in a few battles she had against rankers, she defeated all of them with overwhelming prowess. Her sobriquet, the Killer Whale, is named after the strongest Shinwei in the tower apparently. Many people have compared her to Yuri Jahad, but no one could easily determine who is the stronger of the two. The debate still rages on today, and it's a favorite topic of discussion among rankers. She is tied with Urasia and for the 7th ranking in the tower, which also makes both of them the highest ranked non-irregulars in the tower. It has also been said by SIU that Adori uses a carrier which allows a fisherman to fill any position. A carrier is a combination between a pocket, a lighthouse, and a pipe, and we have seen how dangerous one of these are in the hands of somebody like Dumas. Being a descendant of the REA family, Adori is a practitioner of the REA swordsmanship. Swords wielded with REA swordsmanship are considered to have no blind spot, and there is no good techniques to counteract this style, and as shown when she confronted the Pobedao family, a single slash of Adori's sword was powerful enough to completely obliterate Pobedao Price's lighthouses and break through his barrier and bisect the Ark of Knowledge, and possibly annihilating them all, this feat being able to be taken up to a different level of crazy, as we have seen somebody like White use a single quote-unquote combo of the REA swordsmanship, which was like 1,000 slashes, meaning that Adori could repeat this feat with ease as many times as she possibly wanted with a single slash of her sword, and did this without her S-rank 13-month weapon as well. Overall, Adori was already a monster before we knew she was part of the REA family, but now that she is an absolute demon I wouldn't wish for anyone in the tower to go up against. And so we finally arrive at number 1 on this list, and if it wasn't obvious by everything so far, in my opinion, that would be Urasia and Jahad. I made a previous versus battle video on Adori versus Jahad a while ago before we knew about Adori being an REA, but I still think I agree with why I put Jahad above Adori still, and that is because we have never seen someone with her insane bloodline, being the direct descendant of 2 family heads, Urasia Blossom and Pobedao Gusting, plus being amplified by the blood of Jahad, meaning that she is the only character in the whole story that we know of that has the blood of 3 irregulars in her, and that is just too insane to overlook. Her strength was acknowledged even by the feuding family leaders, with Trauma even calling Jahad the most gifted of all of Jahad's princesses, and this of course includes Adori. Anne was a princess who owned the colorless December, and at some point took the white February after killing its original owner. Her power was such that it was a quote-unquote rumor that Jahad himself had to intervene to take down Anne and seal her away. She was seen as a figure that could put a stop to all the meaningless fighting of the princesses, a true genius that would reign above everyone else, just like she has done on this list. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that is everything that I need to talk about with Jahad princesses and how I would rank them in the Tower God story. If you guys don't agree with my opinion, that is completely fine, and you can tell me why you think a certain way and comment it down below. Overall, this is still a very opinionated topic because, to be frank with you, we just don't have much information about most of these princesses aside from obviously the main characters of the story. So again, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and remember, I'm always going to be here to give you guys the truth, and if the truth isn't always explained, I'm always going to be here to give you guys my opinion on the truth. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.